Hi, I'm Ian. You might have heard that the atmosphere has been warming up lately. I'm going to tell you why and what's happening in the atmosphere to make this warm up, and inform you on ways that we can deal and get rid of this atmospheric warming. During the Industrial Revolution, factories were being popped up all over the place, all around the world. These factories would release high amounts of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are gases that include methane, carbon dioxide, and various other ones. These gases are typically good at absorbing heat in the atmosphere, especially in a gaseous form. So with all these factories going up, there was a ton of these greenhouse gases being released. These gases would help warm the atmosphere and raise the global average temperature to a higher degree than what it was normally supposed to be. To demonstrate how these gases absorb heat so well, I've brought in two balloons. One is filled with air. This one, well, they're not really balloons, they're more surgical gloves, but they'll do the job fine. I couldn't find any balloons really. So this one is, I had to squeeze this one with a rubber band to make it more high pressure, but it should still work. This one is filled with air, this one is filled with water. So basically what I'm going to do is I have a lighter over there, which I'm going to put air under this one, and I'm going to put fire under this one, put fire under this one, and they're both going to react differently. So first we'll do the air one. I got a lighter, whatever, you see it. Gonna put it under it, and it instantly, you see just pressure, it's gone. You can see it's kinda got a hole there, it's burnt a little bit and got a little bit of carbon on it. Alright, so that one was filled with normal air, nothing inside of it. This one is filled with water. So H2O. H2O can absorb a lot of heat, that's why the oceans are warming up and whatever. So we'll put fire under this one and see how it does. And as you can see, it's doing pretty well, not spilling or anything. It's just all that water is absorbing the heat from the flame, and it's just taking it taking it from the glove. You can see like right there, it's fine. Anyway, they're both the same glove, so there's no inconsistencies there. It's all just doing good. The water is just absorbing the heat from the rubber, and I mean, if you hold it here for a while, it'll eventually pop because the water will reach its limit. But there we go. It's still perfectly fine, as you can tell. It's got a little bit of carbon marks right there, or carbon output there, but it's all good. So that's that. One of them is completely gone, got a hole in it now, and the water one's just all good. So a particularly strange greenhouse gas is ozone. It is comprised of 3 oxygen atoms and can be situated at either near the stratosphere or near the ground of the atmosphere. When it is near the ground, it is a big contributor to climate change and warms the atmosphere a lot. It can also contribute to a lot of smog when it is situated near the ground. When the ozone is near the top of the stratosphere, this is called the ozone layer. It forms a kind of a shell around the Earth that protects the Earth from the sun's ultraviolet radiation. If it was not here, then tons of this ultraviolet radiation would be pouring down into Earth and causing various diseases, including cancer and other things. Now, there was a hole in this ozone layer because greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide and chlorofluorocarbons are being released by aerosols and other ways. They're being released into the upper parts of this atmosphere, and then they're taking down the ozone. There's been a giant hole in the ozone layer near the South Pole and Australia. During the 70s and 80s, corporations and companies would put CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons in aerosols. These aerosols were very good at being released, going up to the upper parts of the stratosphere and taking down the ozone layer. Other greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide also affect the ozone layer. These two gases can tear it down, and over the past years, They have formed a giant hole in the ozone layer near the South Pole in Australia. This hole is very large, but is slowly being regenerated due to laws and other bills being passed to limit the release of CFCs. China is still one of the major releasers of CFCs, and they are a big contributor to the global release of CFCs and the depletion of the ozone layer. You can see the effect of these positive bills being passed. They are limiting the release of CFCs, and this is why it is very important for government to limit the releases of certain gases by companies. We can see a positive effect with the passing of these bills to limit the release of greenhouse gases by companies. This is just one of the ways that show how countries can greatly limit the release of gases and be a greater contributor to the cure for climate change. Besides limiting the release of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, we also need to find ways to remove it. There has already been so much carbon in the atmosphere that if we just stopped with the snap of a finger, there would still be tons of carbon in the atmosphere. This carbon still warms up the atmosphere even if we weren't releasing any more. Private industry has been testing their hand at ways of removing carbon from the atmosphere and ways of limiting the release of carbon. An organization called X Prize has been funding institutes, companies, and corporations in developing new ways to remove carbon from the atmosphere and to limit the release of carbon and other greenhouse gases. Companies like Climeworks and Carbon Engineering have also been developing ways on their own to get rid of carbon in the atmosphere and remove it once and for all. It is important that we also limit the release of carbon dioxide by using green energy such as solar energy, wind energy, or hydroelectric energy. Sooner or later, these factories will have to go, and the release of carbon will have to stop, whether we like it or not. The ocean will rise and icebergs will melt, and soon coastal towns will be fully surrounded by water, and we'll have no choice but to just give up and move inward. This is all stoppable though, if we just pull together and stop releasing carbons and figure out ways to pull it from the atmosphere. I hope I've passed my point, and thanks for watching.